Alright, so today we're going to be upgrading the power supply in a pre-built computer. Pre-built computer is anything which you bought from a company such as Dell, HP, Acer, whoever makes your computer these days. So today we're going to be upgrading the power supply so we can have some more advanced hardware inside, such as graphics cards or hard drives. So the power supply in question that we're going to be upgrading it with is the Corsair CX430 series. If you look on my website, you'll be able to see an article about how to choose the right power supply and a couple of details about this model in particular. That's www.DoshTechVideos.gspsites.com. So without further ado, let's get on with this and get the computer up on the desk and start to part it out. So to remove the side panel of your computer to access the components inside, you're going to need to find these thumb screws. Most of the time located on this side of the computer opposite to where the motherboard is. So these are called thumb screws because they're slightly larger heads, so you can unscrew them with your thumb like so. And there's usually two, but some machines do only have one. I have seen some very strange mechanisms where you actually have to take a screw off the top, pull the top panel off, and then the side panel. It's very weird. Anyway, you want to make sure you keep these screws safe, so put them in a safe place. So you want to get this section here, which is usually next to the rear exhaust fan. There's a small section here where you can get your fingers in underneath that and just simply slide it back. Hear a rather reassuring click and the side panel of your computer will come off. To reveal the components inside. So make sure you stow the side panel safely as well. So this particular machine is a Dell Inspiron 531 from 2007, 2008 I think. So, just in case you were wondering, inside this computer we have a AMD Athlon 64 X2 dual core 3800 plus at 2 GHz as the CPU, 3 gigs of RAM and 660 gigs of hard drive space. So to remove the power supply in question, which is going to be this box located at the top here, with all of the wires coming out of it, where you plug your power into the back, and then it changes it all to the different voltages and puts it into all of your different components. So what you're going to want to do is get yourself a screwdriver. So you will just find the screws, they're just normal screws, and you should be able to just crack those off. Now it's also important to note on my website, as also in that article it shows you about different types of power supplies. Some manufacturers use their own screw holes and mounting systems for power supplies, specifically so you can't use your own. Luckily I do believe this one is a normal ATX form factor, so we can use our own components in it. So fancy speeding up on that. So that's now unscrewed. That is still slightly locked in there, so we're going to have to remove all these cables first. So what you're going to want to do is find the cables you need to unplug. These are generally, the cables you want to unplug are generally coming out of the power supply area. So you don't want to unplug anything that is like in the motherboard and goes to a hard drive, for example, because that, for example, you wouldn't need to unplug because that's a data cable. But things like this that go towards the power supply, these are SATA connectors for the for the hard drive. So you just want to slide those back. You might need to wiggle them a little bit. And there we go. And then we'll go with the second one as well. In this case, this hard drive, this computer has 2 hard drives in it. There we go. That's those out of the way. Right. So the next one I'm going to unplug is this one in this corner here. And that is the CPU power connector. So that provides 12 volt power for the CPU, which is the central processing unit of the computer. If your computer runs hot, you might want to leave it a little bit before going in and changing the power supply, because I am noticing now that the heatsink on my CPU is quite hot still. So that's that removed. The only other connectors I'm going to need to do is the SATA power on the DVD drive at the top. Some computers do not have optical drives, but this particular one does.
Right, go for it.
So you want to make sure you're unplugging the right one. It's slightly difficult for me because it is behind another connector, but I do believe that is now out. So that is now disconnected. Okay, so the last connector we've got to remove is generally seen as the most difficult. So you're going to want to get this connector in here. This is your main 20, or most of the time 24 pin main motherboard connector in there. So that is what provides all the different voltages to the motherboard for like standby signal and things like that, power on signal. It's a good idea to get a can of compressed air and blow out the dust that you see inside, because that will help prolong the life of your machine. However, I didn't do that very long ago, so I'm not going to bother this time round. So to remove this, there is a clip on the far side of the connector which you can push in and then gently pull up on the connector. This is generally quite stiff. Okay, so one thing you might need to note is if you've got a particularly close together motherboard like we do here, this is a micro ATX board, you may have to remove your RAM chips closest to the connector to get the connector out. If you can see it, yeah. So you can see that that long white connector is the one that you're looking to get. So everything is now unplugged from our power supply, so we can now just simply slide this back. Slide that back and out. It can be a bit of a pain if it's been in there a while, like this has. There we go, that is now out. So, another thing, pre-built cases do occasionally have these connectors inside. Well, they're little clips under the case where they put wires, so you might have to pull those out. So we've now removed all the connectors, and there are no tabs holding down wires anymore, so you can take this back, and it should, if you give it a little wiggle, so slip back and you can just pull it up. Could you? Oh, don't worry about that, it's just the SATA power. So just pull any wires out that are stuck under other ones. You will generally get this if you have an optical drive, and then you have the power supply out. Right, so now we're going to put the new power supply in. So you want to take it at this angle. If you've got one with a fan on the bottom, you're going to want to make sure that the fan is pointing downwards, because obviously at the top of the case there's no vent for it to extract anything. So you want to take the new power supply, drop it in at an angle. Okay, and then I'm just going to come around this side. I'll just chuck it under this lip here. Just making sure you're not crushing anything, which I'm not, so I'm going to put that in there. Put it forward towards the... push it forwards towards... There we go. Push that forwards into there, and that's now in the case. Now we just want to screw it in. Whiz them in. Alright, there we go. Alright, so now we're going to install the cables for all the power supply. This will now have an extra exhaust fan, which is nice because the one we had before was only 80mm, so that came with the computer. Now we have a 120 at the top. Useful. We're going to plug in the main 24-pin motherboard connector. Alright, so you want to find which side the clip's on. Line that up with the side with the clip on. If you have to remove any RAM to get access, do remember to put it back, otherwise you might be running a bit slow. So now we're going to have to split this in half because this is only a 4-pin CPU power on this motherboard, so you just want to hold it like this and pull from either side and it'll split in half like that. So you need only one of these for this particular motherboard. So you want to make sure you get the clip on the correct side, push it down, line up the slot, push down, click like that, she's in. This is the end that plugs into the modular connector on the power supply. So you're going to want to find one that finds this peripheral and SATA, which you see here is right at the top here. So you just want to feed that cable in there. Line up the clip so I can see the clip goes at the bottom for this. And if you've got an empty 5¼ inch bay and you're not planning to use it, it's a brilliant place to hide all of your excess wires, because even though this is a modular unit, some of the wires are too long. Okay, so you want to get your SATA power connector, line it up so that the L shape is lined up with the L shape on the device, and push it straight forwards. And she clicks on. You have to bend it down a bit, depending on how much space you've got in your case. So you need to do the same with this one. So you just want to push it down all sides and push it forwards. That's so that you can get all of the clips to engage on the case underneath. You're then going to want to get your 2 thumb screws to retain the case and keep the side panel in place. So, as stated earlier, you can either use your thumbs and fingers to screw it in, or if you wish, you can use any normal Phillips head screwdriver and just screw it in like so.